what we're supposed to be talking about is our history with Greek and Roman mythology. What's like your earliest memory and past lives count?
Past lives count. Yeah, I feel like I went through a phase. I don't know how common this is, but I went through a phase in like middle school and maybe high school where I just wanted to read a lot about like classic fairy tales and like actually probably what happened, knowing my mom, we watched like some Disney movie and she's like, well, you know, in like the Grimm's fairy tale version, like Cinderella's stepsisters like cut off their feet. And I was like, what?
And that's amazing.
Yeah. And so I was like, what do you mean? And she's like,
your mom knew you.
Well, now you know where I got it from. So my mom was like, oh yeah, like Disney takes these fairy tales, but they like, you know, make it all like nice and cute. But like the original ones that are like written in these compilations of folk tales are like way more interesting and like pretty intense. And I was like, I want that. So I started reading like a bunch of those. I started reading a bunch of like Greek and Roman mythology stories. So like I have 2 degrees in theater and like we didn't read that many of the classic plays, like, or I don't think I read like that many of them, probably obviously way more than the average person. But we did have to learn a lot about like how they put on shows and like all the technology and like how, so there's a lot of like theater history that's tied up in like Greek theater. So that's also just like, I don't know, tumbling around in my brain somewhere from 2 degrees in theater. So I'm not like a super expert, but I do think I know more than like the average person.
I like really can't remember too much about it. Like, I feel like, I don't know if it's still true, but I feel like in middle school, you kind of get the same like subject matter when it comes to history. And it's like things that they think will be interesting to you, but also like a safe, non-political now topic. So I definitely remember like going through all of the Greek mythology, and then they were like, and the Romans used the same thing, but they changed everyone's names. And that was like kind of the gist of it.
Yeah.
And then I remember like Egyptian mythology more. And I don't know if that's like because I was more interested in like ancient Egypt. I'm not sure, but I actually think I still don't think I know that much about Greek mythology, but most of the stuff I've been reading about is because I have, as I always call it, my long-suffering young adult book series. Mm-hmm. Where like I had the bright idea that I would like have these characters that are like from famous myths and stuff, which means you have to read them and know them or you can't put them in your story. Yeah. So I do a lot of like casually like sifting through different like fairy tales and myths and different like ancient religions and stuff just to be like, hey, this would be like a cool thing to add. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I know, other than pretty much what we're talking about today, which is one of many retellings of Hades and Persephone.
Yeah, I think we're talking about Lore Olympus. Wait, do we say this now? Yeah, that's what we do, right?
You probably saw it in the title. We're talking about Lore Olympus, a webtoon about Hades and Persephone set kind of in modern day. It's sort of unclear, but sort of cool. And I'm Miko, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Liz, your other co-host. And this is the Hot Baddies Club. I love those hot baddies. Hot Baddies Club. Listen to me.
Or is it the Hot Saddies Club today? Right. Our alternate title.
Yeah.
Reserved for the emos and the sad boys. We have a sad boy with us today, although sometimes he's a little bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the Hot Baddies Club. This is the podcast where we discuss the hot and bad fictional characters that we crush on. And today, as we said, we're talking about Lore Olympus. It's a webtoon, and we're going to give a little more information about it right now. But first, I wanted to give a trigger warning. If this is your first time listening, we do each episode in 2 sections. You're currently listening to the spoiler-free one, where we're just going to give a general summary of the series and the character. And we're going to tell you how you can consume this content for yourself if you haven't already. In some cases, I think trigger warnings are necessary. And this series happens to have a lot of them. It's actually quite a fun and uplifting and humorous series, but it does cover a lot of really dark material. So I kind of looked at some other people's takes on this online, and this is the majority of the things I think that are worth giving a content warning for. There is a long-standing plot thread about sexual assault and the PTSD and grief that happens afterwards, including gaslighting, verbal abuse. There are characters that cheat on each other. There's domestic abuse. There's also characters that have anxiety and other mental troubles, and at least one drugging scene that occurs at the beginning of the story. So if any of that is something that you have to tread lightly with, please take care. I will say, though, I think sometimes it does get kind of intense, nothing graphic, but definitely the subject matter and the conversations that are happening. I do think a lot of the fans of this series find it very cathartic, and that they enjoy the way that the characters are dealing with what has happened and are healing and overcoming it. So you'll have to kind of see for yourself and gauge what you feel safe with.
Yeah. I mean, definitely keep it in mind. I do have to say, if it makes a difference for anyone, it isn't put in there as like a shock value thing. And like Miko said, I do think a lot of people find it to be handled like in a very tasteful way that could, like you said, could be cathartic for someone.
Yeah, it's definitely done with the sympathy and the care taken towards the characters who have been victims in those situations. But yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of. All right, I'm ready with the spoiler-free intro if you're ready.
Yep, I'm 100% ready.
Okay, so this one's pretty short because it's easy to get kind of into it. Lore Olympus is an adaptation of the classic Greek myth, the abduction of Persephone, in a modern setting. It's known for its gorgeous color palette, where every character is represented as a different bright color. So there's really nobody that has like a skin tone color unless they go to visit the mortals. Sometimes they will pretend to be mortal, and they'll be in those kind of like actual human skin tone hues. But for the most part, everybody has really bright contrasting colors with each other, so you instantly kind of recognize the different characters. And most iconically, we have pink for Persephone. She's kind of like a fuchsia, like she's a very bright pink.
Yeah.
And Hades is like a blue, I don't know, maybe like a cobalt blue or something. He's very, very blue. It's also known for its really deeply emotional storytelling. Now, when I was looking this up, I'm not sure, like, is the abduction of Persephone is that just like an actual specific one that was written? Because I always kind of thought with myths, there's like many different versions of it. So I'm sure there are like, even back in the Greek times, the ancient Greek times, there were just like lots of oral traditions and like different versions of it already, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that like this was told so many times across like a wide breadth of time and also geographical location. Like there's not like one canonical true version. There's probably some like variations. You can think of it the same as like, like a ghost story or something, where it's like, oh, you may have heard this story when you were growing up, but someone else that you meet later in life will have heard like basically the same story, but some of the details are different or whatever. But yeah, I think it's like, it's an event that happened, or in the mythology, it's an event that happened, but all the details aren't like 100% solid.
Right.
That's my understanding too. But we're not experts.
Yeah, and I actually did make a little summary here for the original myth, but off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, Persephone was seen by Hades on the surface of she was like out in the mortal world, and he brought her to the underworld, and she ate some pomegranate seeds while she was there. And there was a rule that like if you've eaten any food while you were in the underworld, you have to stay there or something. But I think there was like, a lot of pleading and like, I don't know if Demeter was involved or not. She's certainly involved in this version of the story, but this is supposed to be why we have winter, is because Persephone, the goddess of spring, is above ground most of the time, but then in winter she spends a few months below ground with Hades.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. It's like the amount of pomegranate seeds she ate were like about 3 or 4 pomegranate seeds, so she has to spend 3 or 4 months in the underworld with Hades, and her mom like begged and pleaded or whatever, and that's why when she comes back then we have spring again, but when she leaves, Demeter is sad and so all the trees die and everything.
Okay, yeah, so Demeter is involved in that then. Yeah, and I think most modern day retellings of this find it to be very romantic and more consensual and more of like an actual relationship. And I think that's because we all like a hot baddie, honestly. I think people are like, well, what if he was hot though? Maybe this would be different.
What if he was hot?
Yeah. All right. Well, in the case of Lore Olympus, the author is from New Zealand and her name is Rachel Smythe. And she goes by Used Band-Aid online if you want to see her on Twitter or something. It launched in March 2018. And from what I understand, even at the beginning, it was a huge runaway success. And it's through this platform called WEBTOONS, which you're going to hear us talk about a lot. And we will definitely cover other WEBTOONs. WEBTOONs is a platform and it's an app that hosts so many really amazing webcomics. And the app makes it like really easy to read on your phone. And what they do is that they basically help these authors like I think you can also sign up even if you're not like officially kind of sponsored by WEBTOONs, but they help these authors kind of with editors, and sometimes there's like, coloring support or like assistance that can help you. And sometimes there's even music in these comics. Like they'll have like composers do little songs and stuff. And it's free, except that like if sometimes they'll have like basically episodes that are out, but they're not free yet, which is, I think, the main way that they make money, and it works. So pretty much everyone I know who gets addicted to WEBTOONs can't help buying a few coins just to get ahead in the series that they love. I am certainly guilty of that as well, especially for authors I really, really love. So it is, I think, going really well for them. It's definitely a website I would recommend to people because there are so many different types of webcomics on there. I think primarily I read like the more romantic ones, but we're actually gonna later give some of our recommendations as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool platform because like webcomics are not new by any like stretch of the imagination. They've been around for a long time.
As we learned in the Vegeta episode, they're at least as old as me being a preteen. But I think it's like one of these formats that makes it easier for creators, right? Because it can be hard to like run your own website and get attraction to it, like get people to visit. And
I do. It's my understanding that the publishing schedule is pretty brutal.
I think so too. I can think it can be pretty hard for them.
If it's going well, it does seem like they get a lot of support. And Lore Olympus is like the #1 webtoon.
It is seriously, yeah. So the note that I saw from the Wikipedia page is it has over 299 million views. Now, we don't know if that's like views across every single chapter, but even so, that is wild. That's like almost the entire population of the US. And This is like, I don't think a lot of people know about Webtoons like mainstream, but actually many of their shows have been adapted into Korean dramas and into Netflix shows. And Lore Olympus is also coming to Netflix at some point. I don't know when it's coming, but it was picked up like a year or two ago. And the only thing we know is that it will be an animated series on Netflix from the Jim Henson Company. So I don't think there could be anything more hyped than that. Like, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. Not only because of the subject material, but also the art style. It's just going to be really exciting to see how they interpret everything.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see it and to bring it to like a new audience.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like even like book adaptations, I feel like the books are more accessible, or like more people are on the platform of books, like read books, that there are people who read webcomics. So yeah, and they also, Lore Olympus was nominated for an Eisner, which is kind of like this big deal. It's like the equivalent of, you know, when Netflix originals started getting nominated for Oscars.
Yeah.
And it was like, are these even real movies? You know, it's like, obviously this is like one of the most read comics of all time. Like, comic book stores can't compete with these numbers.
Yeah, totally. It's like, as our like technology changes and people's habits change, we have to adapt what is like, quote, legitimate, right? I know there's also a printed version. It looks beautiful. It's only going to be like, I think maybe the first 25 chapters or something like that. So definitely, if you want to be up to date, going straight to Webtoons is best. And the other thing I would say is, a lot of people I know that weren't into Webtoons or just got into it, this is one of the gateway series. So if you have no idea about this, if you just don't read comics or Webtoons at all, I think Lore Olympus is a good place to start, because it's definitely been one that has worked for other people as like their first webcomic. So there's just something like about it that's really appealing and draws people in.
It looks beautiful. The storyline is like interesting, and I mean, it's really popular. It's really popular for a reason.
Yeah, it's definitely the most popular webtoon among everyone I know who reads webtoons, if that means anything, which is basically just me like making all my friends read things online. I do have a little summary about the story. So just to give you a sense of where it begins, it starts with Persephone. And in this case, she's a young goddess who was born and raised on Earth, but is visiting the kingdom of Olympus, and which is sort of painted as this like really cool city for gods and goddesses. And she's living with Artemis, so they're roommates, and she plans on joining the Goddesses of Eternal Maidenhood, which is an organization for virgin goddesses only, and will cause a lot of drama and grief throughout this series. We start off like basically in the first few chapters. We start off with her at a party where she meets Hades, and he accidentally remarks that she puts Aphrodite to shame, a comment which is overheard by Aphrodite and leads to a mean prank. And the result of that is that Persephone ends up meeting Hades. So that is kind of where we begin. That's the start. And you can already kind of see there is that modern day setting thing where they have cars, they have phones, they're texting, there's social media, a lot of things that feel very like modern day, very like almost like modern day romantic soap opera drama, I think is a lot of like the feeling of this series.
Yeah, there's like an aspect of like office romance. There's an aspect of like a lot of melodrama. I did have a little more about the author.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Rachel Smythe went to school for computer graphics and design. So she worked as a graphic designer, which I think explains partially, not every graphic designer is like the best with color, but like she uses color really, really well. And I think because she's a really good graphic, or has a background in graphic design. I don't know what her graphic design skills are. I'm assuming they're good.
They seem to be good. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the thing that draws you in completely is like the color palette. That's probably the first thing everyone notices about this series.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So I was watching, I'll put these links to this in the show notes, but there was this webtoon interview with her and they just asked her some questions, but a couple of her answers were really funny and this one was interesting. So she said that she was in her early 30s and she actually was interested in being a director. And she was like, well, I don't feel like that's possible, which I understand the feeling, but also like smartphones take really good videos now. And like, if you want to be a director, you can start making videos, but I get where she's coming from.
That's interesting though.
Yeah. She was like, I want to be a director, but I don't feel like what she said is I didn't feel like it was practical for me to retrain to be a director. So I tried to figure out what's something else that I could do that was similar. And so I was interested in making my own webcomic because of that. And I thought that was interesting because, like, yeah, I get it. You get to choose, like, how everything looks and what each frame looks like and everything. And she had the skills to start drawing it herself, having, like, an art background.
I completely understand and relate to that because I think that I do that sometimes too, where I'm like, well, I could go down this whole like other career path, but then you start to think like, how many years is it going to take to like get your portfolio together, get into the industry? And then you start to think like almost every time this happens, because I'm a game developer, I think, or you could just make a game about it and that would take less time, you know, comparatively. This happens so many times, especially like theme parks. Like I keep thinking I was destined to work in a theme park and I'm like, I don't even know where you begin to get into that. And then I'm just like, or you could make virtual rides and attractions, which are games, Miko, you can do that, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So that's why she started the webcomic. And actually she started a different one that like didn't work out. I'll put it in the show notes. You can watch the interview. Okay. It's pretty short. She didn't go into a lot of depth about it, but she also said in this video, which was made in 2020, that there would only be 2 or 3 seasons of Lore Olympus. And we're pretty far into season 2 now.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
We haven't gotten into the season 2 break yet, which is coming up. So there might be some like revelation and we might have to record like an addendum or something that's like, oh my God, I can't believe they did whatever. But yeah, right now we're not to the season 2 break. But that's interesting. So this might be the last season of Lore Olympus. I don't know.
Oh no.
Okay. Or at least that's what she said in 2020. She could change her mind. I don't know.
It feels like we're definitely, we'll get into it more, but we're definitely like finishing a big plot arc that has been going on for a while.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things getting kind of like wrapped up in that. Oh, the other funny thing that she said is they were like, what would be your dream cast? And the only thing she said was that she would cast Christian Bale or Mads Mikkelsen as Hades. And my first response was just like, huh. Like, that's not, not my Hades.
That's so interesting because, well, I was like, they're older, but Hades is older too. So I get that.
He's much older than her.
He's both actually old and he looks older, right? He has like the gray hair and stuff. So yeah, that's like a rare case where, I could kind of see that being okay. Well, that's interesting. I have not put any thought into who they would cast, but I mean, if there was a live action interpretation, would you want everybody to be pink and blue and green and everything?
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
I can't think about it yet. I haven't made a decision yet, but it feels like if everyone's just like, quote, normal skin tones, like human skin tones, I would feel like it feels like it would lose a lot.
I mean, I think it being an animated series solves
makes
that problem,
a lot more
right?
sense.
But I guess for me, it's like, how often has that worked out? Like, I feel like today, even now with often. how great the like CG is, like it always seems a little bit like a gimmick for it to be like everyone is going to have a different color skin tone, just like their characters. I personally, if it were me, if I was the director or the art director for a live action, I would try to make that come through in the like the costumes and the environments to like,
oh yeah, I think that's a good compromise.
Make Hades feel blue and make Persephone feel pink, because there's tricks you can do to make someone look more like that, right? And then you can also do some like color correction.
Oh yeah, or maybe the lighting would be cool too.
Oh yeah,
that could be really fun.
And then kind of just touch that up. But like, I just feel like there's something special that happens when you like are kind of more like a practical effects first and then like touching things up in post with visual effects. That happens less and less, but is like really cool. But of course I would say that because that's what I used to do. So yeah. And then the other thing that she said is that she was very insistent that John Mulaney was supposed to be Hermes, which I was also like, okay, I guess.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I needed to like percolate on that for a second.
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I am like really a big fan of Hermes now on the reread.
Oh yeah, me too. We had a list of like other hot characters and we were like, oh yeah, who should be on this list? We'll get to it later. But it was just me writing in all caps when I was rereading. How could we have forgotten about Hermes?
You know what, though? I love that. I think I like it better when a character sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't notice them at first, and then you do.
Yeah, on the reread, he's like, oh, this is the only person here that has their shit together and knows what's going on.
Totally. All right. Well, poor Hades, we're ignoring him. So let's, if it's okay with you, I will get back into it. I just have like a couple sentences to kind of get into who Hades is, because this is the spoiler free. But Hades, in this case, he's the king of the underworld, which you would expect, and he is the god of death and wealth. And he is the older brother of Zeus and Poseidon. The three brothers get into a lot of shenanigans in this series. That's one of the, I think, more humorous parts, is when they're all getting into trouble. And usually of the three, Hades is getting into the least amount of trouble, but he's got to kind of pick up the pieces. And he's mostly depicted as like a modern day businessman. He is blue and he wears suits. And he is the CEO of Underworld Corp, which is sort of explained to us as a large corporation that manages the souls of the dead. So essentially taking all those myths of like what happens to people when they die and pretending it's some kind of like giant corporate, infrastructure where you have to go through all this paperwork and have like, your deeds evaluated. It's definitely portrayed in general that like the underworld is this big dark city where the sun never comes, and it's sort of like almost like a noir like setting, because it's always night and there's a lot of skyscrapers and kind of like seedy alleyways and things like that.
Yeah, I think it also is a bank. Like there's a bank tied up in it.
There's definitely a bank part of the, side quest.
I get the feeling that there's like Underworld Corp is kind of like the financial powerhouse of Olympia. Like I think that's where all the money comes from.
Yeah, there's a part, well, whatever, we'll get into it. But yeah, there's definitely like wealth was part of the original mythology, and it was kind of brought into it. So like weirdly, I would almost say like the series has almost like, without the actual BDSM part, it feels like it has like 50 Shades of Grey kind of vibes, because you've got like the CEO businessman kind of archetype, and we see like a lot of really beautiful like penthouse apartments and just kind of like city life kind of stuff. So there's definitely like that vibe to him. But he is like generally portrayed, we're obviously going to deep dive into it, as even though he is the CEO, he's actually like a really nice and cool guy. If anything, he's got kind of a chip on his shoulder about being, unlovable as the king of the dead and like being old and like but it's all like sort of portrayed through that modern lens, right? like there's a version of this very same story that has nothing to do with Greek mythology, and it's just like an actual CEO trying to find love in his city.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like practicalness to him and his life and what we're seeing. Yeah, that was kind of all my like general notes about Hades. I don't know if you had anything to add there.
I mean, I think you covered it. He's like very powerful, but also a little emotionally stunted, but not. I mean, the parallels to 50 Shades of Grey are like accurate, but also he's not that. First of all, these characters, I thought 50 Shades of Grey characters were like really insufferable. Sorry.
I mean, yes, I'm not trying to say that like if you I don't know how else to say it. It's like the archetype is the same, but the personalities are not like that at all. Yeah. It's like more the like premise. The premise. Yeah. The premise is that she's like going to come and work at this famous, handsome CEO's company. So like the initial setup is the same, but I don't think they have that much in common in terms of like the dynamic of the relationship or the plot or anything. It's more just like that initial theme.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that nobody heard that and was like, well, this isn't for me because I think 50 Shades of Grey. And it's like, it's not the same. It's just like, it has a similar premise, but the characterization is very different and the plot is very different.
Yeah, it's like the billionaire fantasy kind of. And I just think 50 Shades is probably the most well-known of that type, but there are a lot of them out there, especially in romance land.
Yeah, before 50 Shades of Grey came along, it would probably be like Pretty Woman or something, right? Like, what else would be the really well-known, like, rich guy fantasy romance? I don't know. But I don't think, like, today's generation is like, oh, yeah, Pretty Woman. They're probably like, oh, yeah, 50 Shades of Grey.
You tell us if you know of a really good billionaire CEO fantasy, okay? Because I've read a few books. And I would read
just
more.
Just a few books.
So in this case, I think we're pretty much the same. I think we were just both reading webtoons, and this was the most popular one, so we were absorbing it with everything else.
Yeah, well, I think this was the first webtoon I started reading.
Really?
Well, I don't know now. I tried to go back and look at all the ones I had subscribed to, but it's one of the first ones I had started reading, because I only started reading it because of you. Because you started talking about on your Twitch channel or in your Discord, and I was like, what is this? And then I started reading it. And Lore Olympus was one of the first ones that I ever read.
I know, I'm like looking at the, excuse me, I'm like, can I go all the way back in this Webtoons chat and see like what was the first message you ever posted?
Okay, so I searched in the channel for my name as sorted by oldest first, and I said on May 7th 2020, I said, yeah, I gotta get into webtoons, I guess. And then May 8th 2020, I need you all to know that tonight I started reading Lore Olympus and it's mostly y'all's fault. May 8th, oh wait, here we go. May 8th, now at least I'll understand the Lore Olympus cosplay TikToks.
Yes, I see that.
May 8th, the handle for the Lore Olympus artist is use Band-Aid, and girl, you don't have to treat yourself like that.
I know, like there's gotta be a backstory behind that one, right? So basically pure pressure happened to you.
Yeah, but it didn't take much. Let's see, how long did it take me? So I started on the 8th, and by the 10th, I had already read 28 episodes. By the 11th, I had read 87. And then by the 12th, I had caught up to what was free, which I think was up to 110.
It can't be emphasized enough how addicting a lot of the webtoons are. Like, I've spent multiple evenings like staying up till 3 a.m. because I started a new webtoon and I had to get caught up to present and read like 150 episodes in one night. Yeah. They're like that.
But also we're both like compulsive media soaks, I think. It's like if we start.
Is that a new phrase that you just invented?
I had heard the term media soak before, and I've called myself that before, but the compulsive part is new.
Compulsive media soaks.
Yeah, because I'm trying not to say like obsessive, because like being obsessed with something is like a real thing, you know? But like once we start, we can't stop. It's like a compulsive behavior.
It sounds like we're starting a bath bomb company, which like maybe.
Oh, media soaks. We're going to make bath bombs that are themed off of our like most recent compulsive consuming.
The first media. Bit of Hot Baddies merch. Oh, God.
the Hades bath bomb.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? She even says what he smells like. It's
That's
like
true.
Winter something, like forest and winter or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, pin that one for
just
later.
Write that down. Yeah. We just add this to our someday to-do list.
Let us know if you would buy our bath bombs. Which we called media soaps.
Yeah, if you would subscribe to our monthly bath bomb subscription service.
Okay. So anyways, the reason I got hooked on WEBTOONS is actually because of Let's Play, which is another really popular webcomic. I would not be surprised if that became a TV show. I mean, it would be easier to do. It's more modern day. But I basically saw an ad and it worked because they were like, the ad was, I'm an indie game dev, but my latest game got trashed by this hot YouTuber, and now he's my neighbor. Basically, like, just the total setup for a contemporary romance. And then when the title Let's Play came up, I basically, like, slow clapped in real life and was like, I am, like, you know, do you get that feeling? Like, there's things that you admire, and then there's things that you see, and you're like, I'm so mad I didn't have that idea first. Like, that's how I feel about Let's Play. I'm like, this person is so genius, and I am really, like, impressed to the point of, like, a passion.
Yeah.
For it.
I saw an interview once with the creator of Psychonauts. God, what is that guy's name?
Oh, Tim Schafer?
Yeah, Tim Schafer. And he was like, you know, sometimes I see people, that exact feeling. He's like, sometimes I see people do stuff and I get really jealous because I'm like, why didn't I do that? And then I never say that out loud, though. I just say I was really inspired. And I always try to do that now. Like, wow, that's so inspiring. I'm so happy for you. Instead of being like, I'm really jealous. I'm really inspired.
There's a lot of people I am for sure inspired by. And then I think there's another category above that, which is this. I don't have a good word for it yet, but just like when I see something that's so genius, I'm just like, I should have thought of it, but I didn't. And this person is brilliant. Yeah. Like, holy cow. Like, that's... Yeah. Anyway, Let's Play is also really, really good. We're both fans. So all I was going to say about Let's Play is that we both love it and we think you should read it. But as far as I wouldn't say it has any hot baddies in it, so I don't think we're going to cover it. But we'll see.
Let's Play?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but... They'd have to do more. They'd have to be better, I think.
Maybe. I think there's some hot baddies on our list that have done less. But anyway, we don't know.
All right, we don't know. Maybe we'll. We definitely have feelings about that series. It's good. All right, back to Hades. I feel like we've had so many tangents. I feel kind of guilty.
No, sometimes we have to pad our first episode a little bit.
Sometimes.
It's
just that Hades is so inspiring that we have all these other thoughts.
He's inspiring.
Okay, so you might like this series if what I put here is you like retellings of Greek mythology or contemporary office romance.
Yeah, I think like plot-wise, if you like that, if you're somebody who's driven by visual content more by looks also, like this is so striking. Like I think it could, even if you weren't interested in the story, like just how beautiful the color composition is could
Yeah.
also take you pretty far into it. And then if it still doesn't grab you by then, that's fine. But it's at least, if you do any kind of visual art, it's worth taking a look at just to see. Because I don't feel like there's that many things that look like this, at least that get popular mainstream. It's just like very bold and beautiful.
Yep, absolutely. So that would be what I would say. I think that it's definitely worth looking into. We're already in our outro, I think. So for the next episode, the spoiler full episode, we're obviously going to talk about what we know thus far in the world of Lore Olympus. And we're also going to cover some tags, which is how we quantify what makes Hades a hot baddie. We're going to go over his first impression, his looks, his personality, whether he's relationship material or not. We're going to play some listen along games, which is something that we make fresh for every different character that we cover. And then we're going to rate him and see if he's inducted into the club.
Yep. That seems like it pretty much covers it. So if you would like to read along to be able to listen to the spoiler-free without getting spoiled, we will drop a link in the show notes for the link to the webtoon, and you can download an app on your phone. It makes it like really easy and like almost addictive to read because you could just be opening it up and scrolling forever.
Yeah, the apps are really easy to use and they're really fun. You can also go to webtoons.com, and it's not spelled weird or anything. It's just WEBTOONS. Yeah, so and then you can search for Lore Olympus, but to be honest, it will probably be on the front page because it is considered to be one of their top web comics.
Yeah, and there is a lot of it. So if you're like, I don't want to read all of this, I feel like if you could get, like, there will be some spoilers probably for later on, but if you want the gist of like the romance, I feel like if you got up to episode 110, that would be like the biggest chunk of it. Maybe a couple episodes later for one of our favorite looks for Hades. Yeah. But I feel like that's like a good place. It's still a lot because even for a webtoon, these episodes are pretty long. For the webtoons I've read, these are some of the longest episodes.
Yeah, and for reference, I would say it probably takes like a few minutes per episode to read. They're vertical comics, so.
It might take a little longer. Like, it depends on how fast you read, too.
There is a lot of chatter, like it's not like all action scenes, but I don't know. I feel like in general, webtoons are kind of like a couple minutes per episode.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm just looking at the list. As of this recording, we're basically around the 180s in terms of episodes that are out. So by the time you're listening to this, there might be more and we might have an addendum. I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know. There's no way to know.
Once again, I'm Miko. I am on Twitter and Twitch as Dr. Mikachu, Dr. Mikachu.
And I'm Liz. You can find me on Twitter at LizMakes. And you can find me almost everywhere else at Illuminated Space. You can find the podcast. The best place to get all our social medias and everything is hotbaddies.club/links. And that will have all the links everywhere we are because we're mostly Hot Baddies Club everywhere except where we're not, where we are definitely not Hot Baddies Club. And don't get confused if you go to Instagram. There's also a similarly named account on TikTok that is not us. And I hope it's very obvious to you that it is not us. And if you just go to hotbaddies.club, that's our website also. You can join our Discord community by going to discord.hotbaddies.club. Our theme song is The Hot Baddies Club by Ryako. You can find the song and the rest of her amazing music on her Bandcamp website, ryako.bandcamp.com. That's ryako.bandcamp.com.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time. I thought there was going to be more to that sentence. Like, until next time. Don't do that.
It only took 3 episodes for us to be off the rails.
You've awakened inside me a feeling I cannot deny. You impress me, possess me, the thought of you gets me so high. Wanna stay here forever, the rest of the world can go by, but I don't know why.
When we were coming up with like our, I almost said lesson plan, the Hot Baddies school of nothing
what?
I can say here is appropriate to say. I was going to say the School of Hard Knocks, but that doesn't make any sense. It just was the first thing that vomited out of my brain.
Oh my God.
So we're going to start a illegitimate university and also our bath bomb plan. We have a lot of side
MLM.
hustles.
It sounds like we're making an MLM.
Anyways.